Welcome to the Dateable AF podcast. I'm Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm Rachel Howell, a qualitative researcher.
Each week, we break down the emotional patterns behind dating, love, conflict, and connection, and what actually helps people build relationships that last. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 12 of the Dateable AF podcast. Today, our topic is Awkward Won't Kill You, Learning to Tolerate Discomfort. Most of us have had that moment where something gets uncomfortable in a conversation. Maybe you say something and it just doesn't land that well, or maybe you could tell by the look on somebody's face that they're hurt or annoyed by something you said, or I don't know, sometimes the energy in the room just shifts sometimes. And then what happens? Your brain goes into emergency mode.
Danger, danger, fix it.
Yeah, and it's funny because this, tolerating discomfort comes up a lot in the therapy room. Because what happens is when you sense someone else's discomfort, you start explaining yourself. You start over-apologizing. You change the subject. You try to smooth things over. And I wonder what it is that makes us just why can we not just let somebody else sit with their discomfort?
I don't think it's in our DNA. I just think it's really hard to not want to fix it, not want to make it better.
Yep, that's really true. And I think it's something that most of us really never learn. And that's tolerating our own discomfort or tolerating other people's discomfort. And I think that awkward moments are not really dangerous. They're, like you said, maybe it's wired in that somehow we think that they're going to be dangerous, but our nervous systems get all out of whack. But sometimes it's okay to just be a little bit uncomfortable. It's all right.
Do you think we just don't trust that people can handle it? That they just are going to break apart if they have to just be a little uncomfortable for a while?
Maybe. I wonder if it's that sometimes our nervous system reads tension as a threat. Maybe that goes back to, I don't know, caveman days or something. But if you sense that someone else is tense, then I think your brain just starts searching for that quick fix. And I know that you've had this happen before. I know I've had it happen a million times too, that you're having a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden you sense that they're not present anymore, or that their lips get a little tight, or something happens and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? What did I say? And, it may not be about you at all.
Most of the time it probably is.
Most of it. Yep.
Most of the time it's definitely when I have this, I'm much better at it now, but that gate doesn't close down. So something comes into my head and it gets out of my mouth before the gate closes down.
You're like, oops, did I say that out loud?
Right. It makes somebody extremely uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. I think sometimes I have the opposite problem that I have no idea what I just said. I can sense the change in the room, but I don't know what it was that caused it. But people's early experiences in childhood, if conflict in your household led to punishment, or your parents, shutting down, or you felt rejected by them, or some kind of chaos got created, then I think you just learned this lesson of I got to make this discomfort go away as fast as possible.
There are two things that pop up for me in this conversation. There's the discomfort of just allowing somebody else's discomfort to be. Mm-hmm. So not trying to make them feel better. But it could be because of something you say, or it could just be because they're coming to you and they're feeling uncomfortable and they're trying to talk to you about it, and you want to fix it, right? You want to take their discomfort away.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the piece about you sitting in your own discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Just understanding that you aren't going to crumble and we're not perfect, and that you don't have to fix yourself right away either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it's okay for you to sit with it. Yeah, I'll give you an example of something I'm talking about. I had a couple that was in my office, and husband, wife. The husband wanted to attend a family event on the weekend with his family, his extended family. The wife did not want to go. And he was scared to ask her. He was scared to tell her about this event because he knew she wasn't going to want to go. And then she was going to feel uncomfortable that he was going without her. And we had to process through this with them as a couple because he wasn't doing anything wrong. He wanted to see his family. She wasn't wrong in not wanting to go see the family, but he was tiptoeing around it because he knew she was going to feel uncomfortable with this whole idea. And so he didn't want to bring it up. It's like, friend, let your wife feel a little bit uncomfortable. You're not doing anything wrong. And so, like, that's, just one example of things we might tiptoe around, or we don't want to put this in for. So he basically, what had happened was he waited till the very last minute to tell her because he didn't want to tell her. So I think he waited till Friday night to say, hey, on Saturday, I'm going to be gone all day because I'm going to take the kids and go see my family. And then she was mad because he waited till the last minute. So anyway, it becomes this whole thing that it doesn't have to be, where you just said, hey, not sure how you're going to feel about this. I just want to let you know this is what I'm doing this weekend. And then let her sit with it and let her figure it out.
Yeah, it sounds like they ended up creating a really bigger problem than was there
Yes,
originally.
because that isn't cool to spring something on someone last minute. And so he ended up he wasn't going to do anything wrong at the beginning. He was doing this thing that was totally fine. But then he created a situation where he did kind of step on her toes because he was scared of making her uncomfortable.
Boy, I can only imagine in therapy how you're untangling the root of that. I just had this vision as you were talking about this dynamic of what his family must have been like. Was it really that scary to just put it out there for fear of the response you might get? And is she typically somebody that has a big reaction to that sort of thing?
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. I mean, she doesn't strike me as that type, but maybe. And, on a similar note, I was talking to someone in my life who's going through a separation, potential divorce, who said, I just said no to all these things over the years that I've been in this relationship because I didn't want the headache up. It was easier to just say no to things and stay home than to face the consequences of my partner being mad at me when I went out and did things. And I have a feeling that a lot of people in relationships have some version of this going on.
Guarantee you they do. And if you're doing that, we've touched on this just a smidgen on episode or two, where you really have to find that balance between saying yes to things that you don't really mind doing, but that you also say no to the things that really matter to you when you need to say no, or the resentment is going to build up, and
yes,
inevitably it may take a year, it may take 5 years, and here they are. I don't know how long they've been married, but here they are talking about that.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of regret there's a lot of regret on that person's part that he spent all these years saying no to things that he really wanted to do just for the sake of keeping the peace and not wanting to have that awkward moment. Well, there is this dance that we do to avoid awkwardness. I think when discomfort shows up, people start doing this thing where we over-explain things, we over-apologize, we try to make jokes to lighten the moment, we change the subject, we rush to reassure the other person. And so in that example that I gave you a little while ago about the guy who wanted to go do something with his family, he is explaining, no, my aunt and uncle are going to be in from out of town. And, I'm really sorry that I didn't tell you before, but they really want to see me. And so he's going through all these gyrations to prevent his wife from feeling uncomfortable. And he's trying to reassure her and do all these things instead of just announcing this is what he wants to do and letting her sit in that for a minute.
Well, I have a question for you, Dr. Kyle, in this respect. because I've been in that position before where I know that I'm about to announce something that is not going to make my partner comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that dread
Mm-hmm.
because you know that they're not going to be happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been that person where I'm thinking, how can I phrase this? How can I say it? What can I do to be sure that I try to make this go over the best way that it can?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when, like you said, person's not going to be happy. They're going to be uncomfortable. It's something they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And then they punish you because they're mad at you.
Yeah.
So nobody wants that.
No. Well, I'm going to say something that we've said on this podcast before. If you change your behavior because your partner got mad at you, you just positively reinforce that behavior. So if I get mad enough at you, then you're not going to go see your family on Saturday, which is exactly what I want. And so what I learn is if I get mad enough, I'm going to get what I want. And that is not a positive pattern to get into.
No, it is not. And I have been in that scenario where I absolutely have been on the other end of someone in their family when they acted a certain way, they eventually got what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work so great with me.
No. And it's like giving your kid the candy in the grocery store checkout. They're having a fit and you just want to shut them up. So you give them the candy. It's like, no, don't give them the candy. And I think what happens is sometimes we try to manage other people's emotions before they've even had a chance to process it themselves because we don't want them to feel angry or sad or uncomfortable. And it's this impulse that if I can just fix this moment, then everything is going to feel safe again. But I'm going to tell you that what that moment really needs in all likelihood is space, not fixing. So give your person space to feel their feelings and then come back and talk about it.
When you are talking about that, it helps me realize that you're also interfering with the responsibility they have to themselves to re-regulate themselves around it. And that if I jump in because I'm trying to cut off what I see coming and smooth the corners, then they have not been held responsible for working through it themselves.
Yes, I think that's very true. And maybe they never get to the root of why they felt uncomfortable. Like you took away a learning opportunity from them if you tried too soon to relieve them of that discomfort. I think.
Yeah, it's not unlike you think about when you're raising kids that, and I've seen parents of all types in this, but that part of, in just my opinion, and part of our job as parents, it's to allow your kid to skin their knee, to see their own blood, to fail at something without you jumping in to fix it. And the whole premise of that is that if you jump in and take on the bully, pad their corners, do the thing to make them feel better, then they never learn the skill or believe in themselves that they can fix it themselves. They can't, I guess the term self-soothe, whatever that is,
Yeah.
but you're like intervening in their opportunity to, it's a really powerful adult tool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you just brought up such a good point that we didn't even really talk about with regard to this podcast, but parenting is such a big way that this dynamic shows up. And the term for it is actually called snowplow parenting. Yeah. When we go ahead of our kids and we plow all the obstacles out of their path so they don't have to face any obstacles, that is such a disservice. It is such a disservice. This shows up. I have probably 5 sets of parents that I have worked with recently who have dealt with this issue of their kids coming in the bed with the parents when they get scared at night. I think this is doing your kids a huge disservice because they're never going to learn to self-soothe. And I don't think it's like you lock them in their room or you don't show compassion for them. It's not that, but it is saying, you've got this, buddy. Like, let me take you back in your bed and let me, let's give you some tools for what happens if you wake up in the night and you can't go back to sleep. Letting them, and I might get some blowback on this one, but, letting the kid come into your bed, I believe is doing the kid a disservice. You're not teaching them how to soothe themselves. You're snowplow parenting, moving that obstacle of nighttime wake ups or fear out of their path. How are they ever going to learn that? They're going to go to college and be calling you in the night from their dorm because they don't know what to do.
Right. They're going to crawl in bed with their roommate who's not necessarily going to be cool with that.
Yes.
I mean, it's a big one. And here's what I will say about that is when your kids do go out into the world away from you to college or even to high school, they look goofy if they don't have those skills. It does not make them seem good. Their peers are going to make fun of them.
Yeah. And that's a hard lesson to learn from your peers. Like, that is a lesson best learned from the people that love you the most. Learn to face discomfort in your home with your family who loves you and who can support you through it, instead of having to go out and do that with peers. This happens, if your kid, another kid is mean to your kid and you go, call the parents. It's like, no, dude, let those kids work that thing out. I mean, unless your kid's in some kind of danger, which of course you would, like, you're going to let them fall down and skin their knee. You're not going to let them run out in front of a car. You don't want them to get, gravely hurt somehow, but letting them face a few bumps along the way is actually teaching them some good skills. So this is a perfect example of letting people sit with their discomfort.
This reminds me of, if our audience has any doubt about what we're saying, I would challenge you to reflect back on any situation you've been in where you have watched a toddler and parents, where it's toddling around, not really verbal. They fall down, they hit something, they hit their head, they fall down on their knees when they're trying to learn to walk. What do? They immediately look at you to see if they're okay.
Yeah.
They do. It's their instinct.
Yeah.
And those parents, and I have seen it, the parent that goes, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And they're over there dusting them off. That kid is going to cry. And whether they're hurt or not, they're going to cry. What?
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
And if the parent, I have seen parents that absolutely go, "You're okay. You're good. You're good. Just get yourself up. You're good." And that kid will just buck up and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know we're going down a bit of a rabbit trail here, but that is, to me, one of the detriments of modern day parenting, is that sentiment that you just described, they're like, "You're okay." I know plenty of parents that would tell you that's invalidating, like you're invalidating your kid's pain. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. And people are, absolutely free to have their own ideas about it. But I think the kid does look to you. And if you think that fall was a tragedy, then they're going to think it was a tragedy. And if you're like, "Oh, looks like you skinned your knee, buddy," then they're going to respond in kind. It's fine. So, yep. So don't be too quick to relieve people from their own discomfort, because a part of that is how we learn. Let's talk about the cost of avoiding discomfort. What happens when we consistently protect ourselves and people around us from being uncomfortable?
Conversation stays superficial.
Yep. You're never going to get to the deep stuff without a bit of discomfort.
And important issues never get addressed. I think it's just sort of like that couple you were talking about. There they were, really that thing magnified. It blew up into something that it never really needed to be. They had to spend time in your office on it. There were probably several other things that were much more worthy of their time and money than that.
Yep. Yeah. And people end up not feeling understood because you're never getting to the real issues. You're never getting to the deeper stuff. And then you end up having less satisfying relationships. You never feel good when you have relationships where you have to tiptoe around people.
Yeah, they're just full of pleasantries.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I know
And
people like that. We both do. They're just everything is rainbows and unicorns.
yep. Toxic positivity. Is that what that's called?
Max makes me insane.
Yep.
Need some trash. Come on.
Yes. And it's so interesting, like watching this happen with couples, especially how people don't want to feel, well, just in general, not even with couples, but people don't want to feel uncomfortable. So they don't ask the hard questions. I will self disclose that I had gone through somewhat of an existential crisis about my eventual demise. And so I'm constantly sending my kids these articles about like how to deal with aging parents or how to, here's end of life, policies or here's what I want for my living will and things like that. And people freak out about this. They don't want to talk about it with their families. Like I have friends, a lot of my friends have aging parents right now, and they have no idea if their parents want to be cremated, what kind of funeral they want, like what their end of life wishes are, because they're too scared to bring it up. They don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And it's like, dude, your parents are 90. You better start having that conversation.
And this is why do the little ones along the way so that you get comfortable with this. Take
Mhm.
on the topics that really, because whether you like it or not, life it deals us some hard conversations.
Yep.
And even if you don't talk about it, they're still going to come up,
Mhm.
and you're going to be stuck there with dealing with it with when you don't really know what the other person wants or how they feel about it. And when that's going on, I'm just going to say you and Joe just went through an entire, what are you going on year 2 of managing the fallout
Mhm.
of
As somebody
people
who did have those
who
conversations.
right, and
Yeah.
that has caused all sorts of discomfort that could have been, I mean, think about what would have been alleviated if they had just been able to sit around the table with you and say, "Hey, you're responsible for this, and this is what I want."
This is what I want to do. Right. So, yeah, the avoidance of it is never going to make it easier in the long run. It's going to make you have less satisfying relationships. And yeah, we don't have those conversations because we are afraid of disconnecting. We're afraid of alienating someone. But the ironic thing is that effort to avoid the awkwardness often is what makes us disconnected from someone.
Yeah. Think about this too as we're talking about it. I'm thinking about, just being in relationship with your friends or dating. Do you Are you someone that's going to feel uncomfortable if you don't agree about everything?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things that really do matter that you agree upon versus the things that because I think people get uncomfortable simply because you say, you're like, I love CrossFit. I know you do. And I say, I'm an aerobic girl. I really would rather just go run 10 miles than pound the weights. And you'd rather poke out your own eyes and do the running the 10 miles. And I mean, does that mean that we're uncomfortable?
Yeah, no, of course not.
No,
It's like I
no.
can let you like what you like and I can like what I like.
Yes. And does it mean that we are somehow less connected?
Right.
Absolutely not. Uh, no, it does not. And so I do, as I'm thinking about this, I am thinking, on there's just a lot going on in the world right now where people
Mhm.
have some big struggles about discomfort.
Yes.
And there are some big things that simply don't work for people. And you have a right to feel extremely uncomfortable, but understanding clearly what really matters and that discomfort is too much
Mhm.
to me it versus things going, yeah, just because they like black and I like white,
Mhm.
it has nothing to do with how close we are in our relationship.
Yeah. And can I hold fast to my beliefs while still letting you have yours? I remember to this day a conversation that I had with someone probably 25 years ago, a friend of mine named Don Davis, who you know.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yes.
Don, one, and this is relevant to the story, and you'll learn why in a moment, but Don is a Black man, married. He was married to a Black woman, and Don and his wife have 2 sons, and both of their sons are married to white women. And I remember Don asking me, he said, "Do you believe in the cat theory or the bird theory?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said,
I
"Well,
remember this.
the cat theory," he said, "cats, they go out and socialize with all other cats. Like, they hang out with other cats of all, of all breeds. They reproduce with cats of all breeds, and they're fine with that. Birds will go to like the bird bath and socialize with other birds, but at the end of the day, like, cardinals go home with other cardinals to have baby cardinals, and mockingbirds go home with other mockingbirds to have babies with other, with." And I was like, "What? Like, that seems like I never thought about this." But he said, "Well, I believe in the bird theory." And he was talking about race. He said, "I believe that Black people should marry Black people and white people should marry white people." And I was kind of stunned by this, because this seems like a very antiquated, Don's a little older than I am, but it seems like a very antiquated way to feel about things. And I never thought of Don as being like a racist guy. And I was like, this seems so bizarre. And I said, "Your sons, like, how can you say this? Because your sons are married to white women." He goes, "Yeah, my sons believe in the cat theory." And the way he said it just struck me. These are people that he loves so dearly that hold a completely different belief than him. He doesn't care. He was like, I believe in the bird theory. That's why I married a Black woman." And I will never forget that, how it struck me that he was so solid and comfortable in his own beliefs, and he felt zero need to impose that belief on anyone else besides himself. He was like, "I believe this for me." It's like saying, "I eat kosher, therefore I will not be eating bacon with you. But go ahead and order your bacon." Like, he wasn't trying to impose it on anyone else, which I adore that idea. And I, carried that lesson with me.
Yep. I remember that, and I too thought that was a great example of another good example we've talked about quite a bit, and this is in the dating realm, is being, lesbian, is how out you are, you're not. And
Mhm.
and same thing is just trying to, if you know that you need a life that's fully out, don't try to make something work when somebody is not there with you.
Yeah.
But you don't need to try to force them to get comfortable with what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
I mean,
You don't have to out them. Mhm.
if they're uncomfortable for whatever the reasons are, you can decide where they fit for you. So they may not be a good person for you to date, or they may not be partner material, but they can still be your great friend.
Mhm. Yeah, that they don't have to believe the same way you do, and that it doesn't have to be awkward. You can
Right.
just be curious with them, and, let them feel however they feel, and they don't have to agree with you, and it doesn't have to be awkward. So let's talk a bit about what tolerating discomfort actually looks like, because I don't think that tolerating someone else's discomfort means that you're becoming cold or insensitive. In my example with the couple that was in my office, I don't think that either of those partners should have said, "I don't care what you think. I'm doing this anyway." I just think that you don't necessarily change your behavior because someone else is uncomfortable with it. You could be like, "Man, I see that this is going to make you sad that I'm leaving for the day. Is there something I could do to, make you feel better?" Like, okay, but you don't change your behavior just because they got a little bit out of shape.
Yeah. And it means slowing down instead of scrambling. And I have a really dear friend and we disagree on some things periodically. We have great deep conversations, and over time I have learned as her friend to slow down. And when I see that we're moving into this place where we just have a different vision or a view through our lens,
Mhm.
I respect her so immensely, and I know that she always has good reasons why. And I've learned over time when I stopped trying to push that and just slow down and sit and listen to it without the need to change her mind about it, that it's become just a more beautiful relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point, that just giving that person a moment to breathe, giving yourself a moment to breathe instead of feeling like you immediately need to fill that silence.
Mm-hmm. And allowing someone to have a reaction without immediately fixing it. And I just admit, I just think it's so hard. I naturally hard, because I either want to rescue somebody because they feel bad and I want to try to reframe it so that maybe it doesn't sound so bad or make them feel so bad, or I just don't want them to feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that might mean you just say like, oh, I think that landed a little differently than I expected it to. And let it be. Just stay present. Because when people learn to tolerate that discomfort, I think that's when conversations start to become more honest and relationships actually become more resilient because of that discomfort.
Again, I will testify because of this, what I was just saying about my relationship with this individual. That relationship just gets deeper all the time. And we absolutely do a dance together that we used to be a little bit messy in periodically of those. And now the way we have those conversations is so different and so enriching. It's just pretty amazing, really.
And do you think that's because you've been able to sort of stop and take a pause?
It is. And because the other piece of it was just because of the discomfort, instead of us talking about the topic that was of disagreement, we learned to talk about why we felt uncomfortable.
I love that. Yeah. Name it. Bring the discomfort into the conversation.
And then we understood sort of like how you would interact with somebody when you're approaching those conversations. We both, I think, approach those differently. We frame our questions and the way we do it in a different way. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we're changing the outcome of our opinions about something.
Yeah. You're just letting the discomfort sit for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Well, let's talk about the takeaways that we hope folks will get from this podcast today.
Well, awkward moments are part of real connection. They really are.
Yep. You just got to let them be. Discomfort isn't an emergency. Stop feeling like you have to go into fix-it mode. It's not an emergency.
Sometimes the most mature response is simply staying present instead of trying to smooth everything over. That is such a great rule of thumb in most all conversations. Just stay present.
Yeah.
Listen, be curious. You're really good about this too. I think if you're surprised or somebody puts you on your left foot, you really do, I think, fall back to going, tell me more about that, instead of saying, why the hell do you think that?
Yeah. Yeah. So just, stay in that presence and just remember, like, you don't have to fix everybody's feelings, including your own. Just sit with it for a minute. If this podcast has sparked some curiosity in you, and if you're interested in talking more with the folks in your life, your friends, your partner, your family, we have a question for you to ask them. When things get awkward or uncomfortable between the two of us, do we tend to rush to fix it, or can we just sit in this moment and talk through it? That's a really good prompt for discussion, and I would love to know what you find out when you bring that up to someone. If this episode sparks something for you, we want to hear about it. Please reach out to us, email us info@dateableaf.com, or you can connect with us on Instagram. We're @dateableaf. If this conversation made you think of someone in your life, please share this podcast with them. We want to keep our community vibrant and thriving and growing, and that's how it happens, is when you share it with people that you love. So as always, we want to thank you for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of self-respect, don't text your ex. Stay dateable.
AF.